Never heard of it. It's been like since 1996 or something like that. But anyway, anybody with 10 or more acres actively engaged in farming and forestry is going to have an ag water quality plan. Consists of best management practices, and then anybody signing up, I mean, they basically put teeth behind it for, cake dollars, equip, they basically give bonus points on the rankings for people that have an ag water quality plan. So basically it covers these 6 areas: livestock, crops, pesticides, fertilizers, water, forestry, streams, and other water. So, and it's supposed to be up to date. On our farms, I do them for waters, and I update them about every 5 years. Every 5 years, something's changed on the farm, so I just redo it. And then the still certification sheet is not your ag water quality plan, and this is it. So I've got some producers that go into the conservation district office, telling them they want an ag water quality plan, and they just slide the sheet, say sign this, and you're eligible for cost share, and there you go. No, that's not your plan. Okay? So this is me being brutally honest with you guys, starting right now. Okay? Not like I would lie to you, because I work with the College of Ag, and it's my job to read research papers and studies and stuff like that that you all don't want to read. But anyway, there's a map of the United States, and now all that green color stuff is basically showing 41% of the United States drains down to the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? And the Gulf of Mexico is polluted, and this is it. Okay, so this is the ground shot of the Gulf of Mexico. This is dead water up here, and this is living water. This is dead water, which there's no oxygen in it, and no aquatic life can live in it. And that looks kind of big. You don't know how big that area is in size? Anybody? 5,800 square miles. And I had to do the math on that because I don't understand square miles. I don't know what an acreage. That's 3.7 million acres of dead. Okay? We scare you a little bit more. There's 762 sites just like that, all over the United States, spanning some acreage of some like, 62 million acres in size. Okay? So the thing is there it is again, alright? It's showing this groundwater over here. And I was giving a talk, just like I'm giving this one to you all, and there was a guy in the room that used to work for NASA, a guy in Florida, I guess, and he used to give talks too to, people that came in and toured the facility and stuff like that. So he would give this talk, and he said, hey, look, we live on this blue planet, but when it turns brown, we don't live here anymore. And that's really sobering, but that's very, very accurate. And you might think, well, it's a big planet, and, there's plenty of room. But when you throw something away and you live on a planet, it doesn't go anywhere. And then I got this little illustration right here, which I think is kind of cool, because it's basketball night, okay? So here's the globe, okay? And basically it's not blue anymore because I stripped the water off, okay? So let's pretend, okay, that the globe is the size of a basketball. And it's really deceiving because if I strip all the water off of it and put it in a volume, it's the volume of a ping pong ball. If the globe is a basketball, ping pong ball. But that's all the water on the planet. Frozen water, all the sea water, everything. You take the water that's actually available for us to drink, and it's the size of a BB. Okay? Now the thing is we're using that water. It's recycled water. Okay? And we're using the same water that basically dinosaurs drank. And the fluid that was in dinosaurs. I mean, when they died, basically what comes out of their body cavity, that's ours. But now, things are really, really different, so that, like whatever you flush down the toilet, hormones, pharmaceutical drugs, anything under your kitchen sink, let's see, estrogen, steroids, whatever. I mean, it basically goes down into the sewer, and then the sewer system is basically supposed to clean it out, but it doesn't. And then that gets discharged into a river, and then there's a water intake plant down below that, pulls it back up, and it doesn't filter out a lot of that stuff. Pesticides, fertilizers, nitrate, whatever. I mean, there's actually, I'll show you something on the back here in a second. And then this is getting really scary to me too, because this is showing our population right here. Go and look at the population of the Earth is right now. 7.2 billion people. Now, if you were born in the 50s, then basically the size of our population is basically tripled since you were born. Okay? But now, here we are, 2012, 2015 or something. And basically what's going to happen by 2050, the population on the planet is going to increase by another 2.4 billion people. Okay, so it's estimated we're going to have 9.6 billion people on the planet by 2050. And then you combine that with global warming and some other stuff, it gets really scary. And then anybody see the episode 60 Minutes ran a while back on the shortage of water in California? Anybody? No? California is sinking wells there to basically do irrigation of crops because California is a desert. And basically it's very fertile land, but only if you're pumping water up there, which costs us billions in taxpayer dollars every year. So they're shipping this water out there, and I'm having Arizona, Nevada, California, Southern California, they're all starving for water. So anyway, they're drilling these wells. They have to go 1,500 feet deep now to get water. And the further you go, the more expensive it is to get. And then what's happening is that water level in that aquifer is dropping 200 feet a year. So it's getting further and further down. They're sucking so much water out of California that the actual land in California is sinking about a foot a year. It's called subsidence. Okay? Because you're sucking that water and it's shooting down. Now, that's California. You can go to where we had the Dust Bowl, basically out in the Midwest, and then you got the whole olive watershed. Well, we're sucking that one down too. And these watersheds, not watersheds, but these aquifers took like 10,000 years to fill up, okay? And we're draining them in decades. So water is a renewable resource, but the point is we're using it faster than it's being replenished. And the water quality part of it is also decreasing significantly, okay? So, when I tell y'all that I need y'all to have an ag water quality plan, I want you to take it seriously because really the state is hanging its hat on agriculture doing these water quality plans, and we don't have really anything to show for it. They've done some stuff with coal mines and stuff like that, and got real stringent with them on air quality and so on and so forth. And they really snapped pretty good, and that changed, but we're not really doing much on ag water quality stuff. And so it's really kind of a shame. So it's a dynamic document, and I want you to take it seriously. It's not a document you should go to the conservation district and fill out in 10 minutes. I've done it for our farms, and it took me 5 years before I had something I could write about on an experiment station property, okay? Where we fenced off a creek or provide an alternative water source or whatever. It took me a while to get something there. This is something else. The judge in Washington State basically said that dairy manure was hazardous waste. And if it's hazardous waste, that changes a whole lot of things. Now this might get repealed, who knows? But it's basically an indicator of stuff that's going on. Okay? And then this is Iowa. Iowa's largest water utility is suing 3 agricultural counties because the runoff coming off their fields has got so much nitrate in it that it's costing them $7,000 a day to remove it, to make drinking water out of it. And they don't want to pay the bill anymore, so they're suing these counties. You look at other states, there's 5 states that are suing Monsanto over atrazine in the water. I mean, it goes on and on. Okay? So, water quality is serious. You don't think of, basically you check the Farm Bureau website, and they just established this committee in December looking at water quality and quantity, and they're also understanding that this is a very serious problem. So, if you want to fill out an ag water quality plan, you've got 2 choices. You can go to this electronic website, it's up there on the board, and you can go to that, it's an interactive tool, and you can put in your information, and you can go in and change that thing every hour, every day, every week, every year, whatever. Or you can get a hard copy from the conservation district, you can fill that thing out. But if it asks you a question, then basically if you say yes, then basically you got to fill out, it says pick a couple of BMPs, and the more you select, the better it is. But those BMPs have to be put in site specifically, and they have to have the technical assistance to put them right. So, what I need you all to do is soil sample your all's farm, your fields, everything. If you put manure on the same field and you go, Steve, I need a full sample of that, I know the fertility's high. Collect it anyway. And just look how high it is and just take that manure and put it someplace else if it's so high. Put your manure in fields that need it. That's the point of that. Control your runoff. Install buffers, filters, grass waterways. Do rotational grazing. Install heavy traffic paths. Install alternative water sources. Exclude livestock from streams and ponds and evaluate your operation. Sometimes it's hard for us to evaluate our operation because it's ours. We've had it for a while. Sometimes you have to bring in somebody from the outside and go, hey, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? What do I need to be aware of? These best management practices that are recommended in there, a lot of people get upset about them. They think they're environmental things and they're not going to make a profit that's going to make farming too hard for them. That's not the case. It is not the case. These practices are actually designed, by and large, to help you all out as far as profitability. production, saving time, fuel, labor. I do the Master Cattle program for Roy, and I prove it all night long. Those programs or those practices are designed to increase production. Like this one right here. Here's the field that we basically took, and it's kind of short of the screen. But anyway, there's a road right here, and there's a fence along the back. It's got a stream that dissects it. Here's gully erosion right through here, and you can see it from the air. I mean, it's like this deep. Here's a wet spring area right there. There's a winter feeding area. Had 16 animals in the field, and they were crossing this creek in 16 different places, predominantly right there. So I take that field, and then I do this to it, okay? I enhance this waterway, but basically I fence this off, put in a designated stream crossing, put in this winter feeding area, harness that spring, put in a gravity flow water structure down here, fix the gully erosion with what we call a drop structure, and I did all of this stuff using state cost share. Taxpayer dollars pay for all this stuff. I mean, and so it's looking good. See, and then now I have at least a two-system rotational grazing system because the water was over here. Once I fenced off the animals from this side to the water, I had to have water over here, and then I developed the spring, and that's free water. No usage charges, no sewer fees, no nothing on it. So, and it runs the same temperature year-round, 58 degrees year-round. This is a dairy. It doesn't have anything to do with y'all, but so this is a dairy, and basically lagoons were overflowing. Those are green, okay? Lagoons aren't supposed to be green. They're supposed to be purple if they're actually working well, because they got this phosphorescent bacteria that propagates in there. But there was so much watershed water that's going in these lagoons, it was displacing them, and it was actually they were overflowing. So you contact the NRCS, and they wanted to put in a 5 million gallon lagoon right here that would have been in that cornfield. It would have taken up that valuable cornfield, the corn ground. And we didn't want that to happen, so we said, well, we're going to do something else. So what we did was we just changed that drainage so that it went around and in between and around these lagoons, not in them. And now the lagoon is pink, purple. It's working good. Now you can actually see I got a whole lot of extra space in here, even though it's fall, and I should be laying plants. See right there, you can see I don't have any extra room. And here I do. And so I didn't take up that valuable land right there. So, and then what that is, that practice is called stormwater diversion. I'm keeping clean water clean by diverting it, not letting it go through my production facility, letting it keep clean and letting it run down to the creek, and I'm saving myself all kinds of time and fuel, because I don't have lagoons or additional lagoons that I don't have to pump. And stormwater diversion is an ag-water quality plan BMP. So when I presented this to the committee, and I said, hey, I got a new BMP, and here it is. Well, Farm Bureau was like, wait, we want to hamstring the farmers. Let's don't do any undue burden here. But once they read it, they were like, this is not a burden. This is a good idea. Yeah, we'll sign off on this. So there it is. These fields right here, we used to do, you can see where we crop them and stuff like that. And here's a pasture right up through here. And they were doing a liquid application of this lagoon water. And so I was like, well, they needed more land. And I was like, well, I got more land for you. I'm going to take out this lane if you're not using it, cut out the fence lines. And now, when we do injections, we're going all the way across, and I fenced off this repairing area. So now when you look at it, it's one continuous field. So when you're plowing that liquid in, it's just, you don't have to make any turns, you have to stop or turn around multiple times. It takes us less time to apply the manure. Again, it's just thinking out of the box of things that actually help out. And now running perpendicular to this creek is actually better for water quality. So I made up an imaginary beef cattle farm, and I listed a bunch of best management practices that might be on that farm. Okay? So rotational grazing, proper stocking density, riparian area protection, which is basically exclusion, stream crossings, alternative water, manure storage structure like a stack pack, nutrient management, doing a filter strip, heavy traffic patterns, dead animal disposal. There's the stormwater management, and also watching out for sinkholes, because that sinkhole is a direct conduit to groundwater. I know back on our farm, it was a real good place to put dead animals. They just disappeared. It was rejuvenated. Let's put another one in there. But it's not a good idea. Okay? So heavy use areas. Alright, so let's just get right down to it. This basically is a winter feeding area. So you got here's your fence, so they're doing this bumper feeding on this side. You can see the rutting, cattle on the other side. Alright, here's the ruts. And then here on the other side of the cattle, basically it's constant. About that much topsoil. Well, that's the yield potential for that field. It's gone. It's down at the bottom of the hill. And it's down to this nasty, dumbo, compacted clay, and they're just walking around in it. But here's the deal on clay, or on walking in mud. You got an animal walking in 4 to 8 inches of mud, its feed intake goes down by an average of 12%. Why is that? Because it doesn't want to walk in the mud to go to the trough. It doesn't want to walk through it. Okay? But its total feed required goes up by 12%. Why is that? Because it's walking in all that mud and it needs additional energy. So 4 to 8 inches of mud is costing you 14% in daily gains. Okay? If you got more mud than that, then you're looking at more losses. So the point is mud is actually costing you money. Okay? So then you look at this. All right, so human foot pressure. All right, hang on. All right. So if I can stand on 2 feet, stand still. Okay. So I'm applying about 14 pounds per square inch to this floor. Okay? Cattle are about twice that at 27. Okay? All right? But a D9 dozer, that's about a 50-ton dozer, okay, provides 16 psi. So that means that this D9 dozer provides 166% more pressure than cattle. A huge dozer. Now, anybody raising cattle in the wintertime, this is not a surprise, right? Okay. So, but see this foot pressure over here on this side, that's standing still. Okay? What if the animal's walking? What if I'm walking? Well, I'm displacing on my weight on that other foot. Okay? So when I'm walking, basically, that traction pressure, it basically doubles. Now I'm at 28 psi, and cattle are 48. Okay? Alright? So let's bring up something else. What if I'm walking in mud and I'm walking really, really fast? How far do I sink? Versus if I walk really, really slow. If I walk really, really slow, how much do I sink? More. You actually sink more when you're walking slow versus walking fast. What if I walk over the same area over and over and over again? Do I sink further? Yeah, I do. How do cattle walk? Very slow in the same path. Okay? Now, I bring this up because what you want to do as producers, what you want to do as producers is you want to provide a surface, alright, some kind of all-weather surface that animals can stand on where they don't sink, okay? And that's what this table is right here. So that first one, alright, so soft clay, standing loam. Y'all ever heard standing loam described before? Standing loam. How about silty clay loam? How about silt loam? It's topsoil is what it is. So at 13 or 14 psi, basically topsoil doesn't have the weight to support cattle. But then you go, wait, I got cattle on my pastures all the time. They're on grass. And grass and roots basically provide reinforcement so that basically provides more pressure. Okay? So what you want to do is go down this list, and you want to find something greater than 48. So here's one right here. Here's 55. Alright? Alright, so that's coarse or compacted sand. Alright, so let's just say you were able to get a break and you went down to Myrtle Beach for a couple of days of vacation. You're walking along the beach, you stand there on the edge of the beach, and a wave comes up, surf comes up, and it goes past you, it rolls up on the beach, and then it rolls back. What happens to you? You sink. Okay? Because these measurements are dry. When you get sand wet, or anything wet, basically it loses its strength. So that's not going to work. Alright? Compacted gravel mixture, 83. That'll do it. Okay? Which is why the NRCS and state cost you many trash bags made of rock and geotextile fabric. That's why they give you all the money in taxpayer dollars to basically put those in so that your cattle don't sink, so you can put in feeding pads, and basically you don't waste money and you don't generate this money. Alright, soil cement, 2400 psi, basically, and here's concrete at 6000 psi, indestructible. That's why we put concrete around waters, around feed bunkers for winter feeding, that kind of thing. Indestructible. Okay? So there's the deal on that. So then this is a cost table. And the cost table basically it's relative numbers. Okay? Just don't worry too much about it. But alright, so let's pick something. Alright, so concrete, alright? $3,750. Indestructible. There it is. That's what it's going to cost me for this particular exercise. Alright? You look next to it and basically there's gravel, $34.25. $300 less. And you go, oh gosh, the thing is, when you put in concrete, the initial cost is a lot. It's very expensive, okay? But it's, but basically you can put in the rock, which is cheaper, but if you're going to be scraping the area off, it's what I call a deferred cost. Because if you can scrape off that gravel, you can remove gravel, which means you got to add gravel. If you add it up over the course of, so many years, you're adding and replenishing this gravel, you might as well should have done it in the concrete, okay? So there's that. But here's this other thing. This is just gravel alone. But if you go with geotextile fabric and gravel, basically the cost goes down to $2,400. Why is that? Anybody know? Because when I put in a gravel pad that's supposed to sustain cattle, it's got to be 1 foot thick in order to support their weight. If I use geotextile fabric rock, I get by with using less rock, but I put down this fabric. Okay? Now that fabric serves 2 purposes. Okay? Basically, it provides a separation between the rock and the mud, so you don't have that mud coming up and commingling with the rock and having this mixture mess that doesn't last very long because now it's commingled. And then also, basically, you put it out and you get no wrinkles in it, you spread it out nice and flat and put the rock on top of it. What it does is it provides a reinforcement so that you're spreading out that cattle load over a greater area. Okay, so that also prevents it from sinking down in there. So there's the deal with that. Okay, but wait, the most expensive one up here, almost $5 grand, is doing what? Nothing. Nothing. That's wasting money, basically feeding that animal, what, twice as much and getting half the gains. That's wasting forages because he's in mud and you're taking tractors out there, you're running up the pastures. That animal's got hanging tags on them. I'm not talking ear tags, I'm talking tags of mud, manure. So when you take that animal to stockyards, you get more money for it because it weighs more? No, you get docked, right? So mud, again, costs you money. Okay? So, man, you got tire pressure. Oh my gosh, let's say you're taking that tractor out there. On average, you look at tractor tires basically providing 175 psi. You put a roll bale on that thing, you're looking at 350 psi, which is why the tractor's going to sink up to the axle. Okay? So, let's take this. Alright? This is a winter feeding area. But it's not even winter yet. There's still leaves on those trees. This is like early October. Is this a good winter feeding area? No. It's in this draw. I mean, here's a big dam of a lake right here. Here's an artifact of a lake right here, or a pond right here. It's got trees growing up in it. And here's all this watershed. It's all draining down through there. I already told you. Soil, topsoil, has no strength to it when it gets wet. It's going to get really wet if it's in a draw like this, because that's the concentration of all that watershed. Which is why these animals are up in their knees in hocks and mud. Okay? And these are going to have wasted forage right there because their roll bale is going to get wet. Alright? What about this one? These animals are basically laying on it, calves up to his knees in hocks and mud. They're urinating on it, they're defecating on it, they're commingling in with that mud. Okay? So you have losses right there of forage commingling in with that mud. What kind of losses are we talking about? What kind of percentages? Anybody know? There's data on it. There's somebody out there collecting data on something, I guarantee you, okay? So if you got a no-feeder system like that roll bale out there where they have full access to it, the data is kind of scattered. Here it is right about 30-some%. It goes all the way up to about, what, 97, 96? But on average, that's that little square right there, it's about 58%. So if you put a roll bale out there and they have full access to it, basically you're talking 58% of that hay. It's gone, okay? Our farms, I can show you that 90-some%. That's where we take a roll bale and roll it out 150 foot in length. And the pasture's overgrazed and it rains 2 hours later. It's done. It's gone. That's your 95% losses right there. Okay? But the point is, if you provide some sort of containment for that, basically you can save on forage. So there's a ring feeder right there. Nice cluster of data. It's about 20% right there. It's not bad. Okay? But there's other things that are a little bit better. So, here's that same winter feeding area after the winter. Okay? And then look at all that huge mound of uneaten forage, wasted forage. Here's another view of it. Okay? So the point is I'm bringing up this. If you're looking at the hardest surface that there is, that's concrete. Okay? So here's a concrete surface right here. It's 40 foot by 40 foot concrete pad. This center section right here, when you put the roll bales, it's elevated 5.5 inches. Nominal board lift. Okay? And so what you're doing is you're putting these roll bales on here, and you're basically getting them out of that quagmire, that manure that's going to generate in this area. And then right here is a 4-foot creek feeding area for bucket feeding calves, like if you're fall calving, sorry. And you want to put some extra weight on your calves, then you can just walk down through here with a 5-gallon bucket, feed them some grain. And then now they're going to get used to you, and if you're keeping replacement heifers, then these will be some really good tame heifers to keep. Okay? And then you can put gates in different configurations, but the gates on this side are basically coming off of what we call the production area. Okay, that's your farm yard kind of thing. Okay? And then you load up this rack for 3 to 5 days, you're done. You go do something else, and you use the structure basically with rotational grazing. And so here's another structure. This is on our farm. And basically, you put the gates in any configuration you want so that you can utilize this one structure with several pastures, at least 3. Okay, 2 at the minimum. But you can get in a 3rd, maybe a 4th by putting in a lane, 16-foot wide lane. What are you going to line that lane with? Geotextile fabric and rock. Okay? And that's what these are. That's geotextile fabric and rock on these outside areas, and here's the concrete in the center. So what happened was a buddy of mine came up with an idea of this practice, this structure. And it came about as part of what we call a watershed project. He got, hundreds of thousands of dollars to basically say, hey, can I come on your farm and put one of these structures in, and you tell me how you like it. And I'll put one on your farm, and you tell me how you like it, or how it works for you. We'll do one for you as well. You just let me know. So the comments that the guy got back are right here. Okay? So they basically said that this thing saves hay because, 1, it's elevated, it gets it out of that quagmire, you're not losing anything. It's also contained, so the cattle are eating it out of there, so they're not wasting it as much. Okay? They're saving field labor and pastures because the animals are coming up to them. They're not going out to the field. They're not driving to the field, running up their pastures, maybe going into a flat area, which was a floodplain, which a floodplain is where all water goes, right? And taking a hay trailer out there or rings out there, destroying some area for winter feeding. They're not going to do any of that, okay? Because the animals are walking up to that structure, they're eating, and then they're leaving. So then he says, yeah, I'm saving my pastures too. And then he says I'm getting better manure utilization because he's scraping up that concrete, which is easy to scrape up, okay? And he's taking it and he's putting it on his pastures that he's got. He's getting yield benefit off of from his hay, from the nutrients in the whole environmental capacity in the north. And then he also, I didn't plug you for this, okay? But he basically said I also get better water quality management, okay? So, and then you use the structure with proper grazing use of the plain grazing system, which is rotational grazing. And then I put in there that you use this with a holistic approach. We have put these things in on farms because now this structure is part of cost share. You can sign up for cost share and get that structure, okay? So they put some of these structures on people's farms. We go out to someone's farm. And the producer would go, hey, I want it right over there. It's just 150 feet, right down there, where the road is, essentially. And we got to looking around and we go, that's really not the best place to put it. Let's put it right here. And we looked around and we go, gosh, if we put it 150 foot in any other direction other than right here, it's in the wrong spot. So you got to really pick where this thing goes. Because this guy right here, okay, so here's his farm, outlined in white. And so that's where the structure is, that little yellow circle. And here's his hay field way over here. So you can see the benefit of hauling that hay, that manure all the way over to the hay field. But that's where the structure is. Okay, so now, this is it on the ground level. Here's the hay rack, and look where he's got his hay. It's essentially just right across the street. It's just right there. So all he's got to do is spear this, load this structure up, and he's done. This guy actually broke his shoulder that winter. And he had his wife doing the feeding for him. And he's like, Steve, she could have done it with rings and that hay trailer that I had before. This worked out like a charm. Okay? Now, let me go stand over here in this rope and I'll take a shot going back this way. There it is. Okay, so now this is a holistic approach. So he's got this one structure and he's got a maternity pen over here on this side. And he's got a lane that comes up to the structure over here. And off that line, he's got a creek feeding area where his calves go. They put on some additional weight. It's actually got some grass in there, so it's also, pasture creek feeding as well. And then he put in the chute, and he's got this utility building right here, so he can work up his animals as well, do his shots and vaccinations and stuff. He's got a refrigerator in there. He's got some beer in the fridge, concrete floors, some lawn chairs. He's got everything at the table. All right, it's really nice. All right. So it just works out. It's this holistic approach of putting this one structure and fitting it around the rest of the operation. And then it's really nice if you can have, an adjacent cover manure stack pad off the side where you scrape this thing up every couple of weeks and just dump it over here. All depends on your herd size. Now, I didn't talk about herd size. This thing is basically made for herd size of about 40. Well, let's say you've got a herd size of 80. Well, then you cluster your herd into 2 groups of 40. And you run one group in, and then you run one group out, and bring in the other group. This rotational grazing and switching things around. It's a better emphasization of that structure. The other thing about this is, the other thing about the structure is there is no water associated with the structure. There's actually, I can see a ridge right over there against this utility. I don't want water within 150 feet of this structure. Reason why is because if I put water in here with those cattle in that roll bell there, they're never leaving. And that means more manure for you to clean up. And I want you to do that. You have a 4-legged manure spreader and forage chopper all in one little package. Get that girl to do the work for you. Okay? All you want her to do is come up here and eat, and then she's going to leave and go get a drink. And she's going to, go hopefully back out to pastures, and she's going to defecate anywhere in between, all over the place. Okay? But it leaves more for you to clean up if there's water in there. The other thing about it is that, let's say, all right, it's Kentucky. So, right now, we're in a drought. We're in a drought. But let's say every 5 years, if you take 5 years, on average, I'd say every 2 years out of 5, we probably get really good moisture during the summer, and we can do some really good hay. 2 years, we're probably going to have a drought. 1 year is going to be average. So let's say you have a drought year and you don't get to pull up enough hay. You can do a maintenance diet by bringing up those girls and letting them eat for 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever, and kicking them out, bringing in the next group, rather than let them have full access to it if you're short on hay. If you've got it, fine, okay? The other thing is, we're trying to make this as tight as possible, about 8 feet across the centers, and if you've got good quality forage, they're going to consume it all. And what they don't consume, you just push out the back, go in with that manure, and then you got to stack the product. But I got this video too, and this video is going to incorporate a couple of these ideas, but it's also going to bring in nutrient management too. So let's try this out. Okay. Hey, Carrie? I can't find the mouse. Can you? Please? Oh. Okay. Sorry. Seriously? No. Hey, Carrie. Can I borrow you again? You got this up? You got this up. Stop now. No. We should try technology. What about those cats? Are they going to lose one this year? I'm disappointed, honestly. You gotta have upperclassmen. Keep those boys going. Keep them focused. They lose. Yeah. Okay, any comments or questions so far on anything? Can we try to handle this little technological glitch? If I get this video up, it's really good. This guy said a lot in a short amount of time. No? Cost share, you basically go to the conservation district. Yeah, and you either try to get state cost share or federal cost share. If you get somebody good that's working in the office, they can help you with, how do you call it? Mixing and matching different programs to get you what you want. You might say, oh no, you don't want to use that cost share for this. Let's use this cost share for this and save this other one for doing something else. It all depends on how long you've been working there and how well you work the system. So, anything else? Come on, I'm trying to stall here. Help me out. Come on.
This thing, water quality, is such a huge thing. It would be, we need some practical ideas about things. I've got a big farm. I've tried to enhance some ponds and do things like that where I got some capacity. My farming operation is a project. Got some drip ground on it and some very decent ground. But to be able to come up with a plan, a longer range plan, would be helpful. You know.
That's another one of those conservation district kind of things. And if you go to them now, and even though they might be kind of busy, they can put you on a list basically trying to help you develop a conservation plan. And it's all dependent on who works in that county and what you get. And you also got extension agents and stuff like that, beef cattle specialists and such. And then what I do is, because I'm spoiled, you know, a lot of times I'll go to, because I'm a beef cattle, I do stuff all everywhere. And I'll go into a county or something like that, and I'll go, look, I got a project, and I want this to be successful. So I'll go to the state office and go, hey, I've borrowed somebody.
They are pushing back the covered portion of the beef cattle, their compost, it dries out, release their often usually we get their entire winter with the space that we have in their back, keep pushing back, and then in the springtime, we pasture right now, we take select certain pastures, we feel need more nutrients, take a manure spreader, we spread those out, and it's pretty good benefit because it's saving some fertilized dollars, and we think we'll make organic matter, and you get from the manure and the hay, when it's composted, and it's value into your soil.
Okay, did you get all that? Do I need to play it again? No? Yes? Don't talk much. Listen on, it's me, come on. Okay, so alright, so I'll try to regurgitate what this guy said. Alright, so he's using concrete, okay, which is the hardest surface you can get. Okay, so he's feeding on that in wintertime. And then he said he's scraping that up, he's putting it underneath the barn, okay, to keep that manure dry where it's drying out and it's composting, okay? Which means he's not doing daily scrape and haul. He doesn't have these winter feeding areas where he's got, you know, all this mud and commingling and sort of like that stuff going on. So he says he lets it dry out and compost, and then he's applying it on fields in the spring because he's letting his fields dry out. So now he's not rutting up fields, hay fields, pastures, whatever. He's not compacting soil, so it's going to hurt your yield. And then he's putting it on the ground based on the soil sample, okay? So, and he's utilizing the manure because he's saving on inorganic fertilizer dollars. I mean, you've got the manure, okay? Might as well use it where you can, like on some of that reclaimed land, okay? And then he's getting also a benefit because it's got water holding capacity. And let's see, what else did he say? And when we just look at the benefits, I mean, I'm just trying to think about this. Let's say he's hauling it, you know, all the time. You know, he's putting the manure spreader, he's hauling it down the road, so now he's dribbling out a little bit of manure, he's slinging mud down the road, somebody drives their camera into it, they're going to make a phone call, you know? So he doesn't have to deal with any of that. But if somebody did complain, and they came on your property and said, hey, what's the deal with all this manure? But before we ask you that, we want to see your ag water quality plan. That's what they're going to ask you for. I want to see your ag water quality plan. Because I heard you were taking manure down to the creek and spreading it down there. No, here's my ag water quality plan. This is what I'm doing. Okay? So there's that. So then, aside from concrete, I mean, basically we've got the geotextile fabric and rock. So this is a picture when we first put this in, and then that's what it looks like now. Okay? And then, I know about this, is the water was leaking then, and the water was leaking now, okay? And that's a part of this is because, again, once that stuff gets wet, water, you know, weakens these things. So having this in heavy traffic pad is good. You can still see there's an imprint of it. It's not getting used that much, but heavy traffic pads, I mean, they're good. They're good for waterways, you know, widening lanes and areas, gateways, traffic lanes, all kinds of stuff. Low cost, reduces erosion. You can also use it in situations like this where you're setting up rain feeders. Okay, I even got the dimensions on this, basically of how to set that up. Okay, so that you got enough space for your animals in there. And then this is kind of cool too. I probably have another video on this. But then this is, no, I don't, it's not on my computer. Alright, so this basically, what this is she set up this feeding area right here. Basically, the soil drains this way, down towards this creek. Well, she didn't have enough money to fence off the entire stretch of creek. Okay, and so there's that situation right there. So rather than fence off the whole creek, she just put in this little area right here, which is a filter strip that basically catches and filters out this runoff before it gets to the creek. And then all she's got to do is just open up the gate, you know, the grass gets like this, and let them in there and graze it, and take it down to that, and then pull them off. Don't take the grass down to the nubs or make them money nuts. So that's why that's contained, is just to do a filtration on that area. Now, when you put in Geotextile fabric, guys. I don't know if you've done this before or not. I'm going to tell you anyway, okay? This is the way I like to do it. I'm in engineering, and I'm anal, okay? Here's the deal. Topsoil has no strength, okay? So you have to remove the topsoil. You got to take it down to a hard, compacted clay layer, okay? Now, depending on where you are, topography-wise, it's going to dictate how much topsoil you got to remove. It's 3 inches and 6 inches right there, but that's relative. Okay, you might come into some area, you might have to take out 10 inches. You go down into a bottom, and a bottom, because of the erosion of those hills, might have literally this much topsoil. So a bottom would be a flat place to put one of these. Yes? Yes. Summer position, be really, really good. Shallow soil. Okay? The other thing is, I like to cut that soil straight down. And when it shows it going straight down like that, is exactly what I want. So you should cut it straight down and you make what I call a picture frame. I want to remove that soil straight out of that block. So if you're removing the soil and you got a ramp where you're riding up over, that wall that you created at the step, then that's not a step. I want that cut out too. Okay? Because I want it straight down. Alright? And then you put the geotextile fabric down, no wrinkles. If it's got wrinkles, it's not going to have that reinforcement. And you don't back the truck onto the fabric and dump it and drive off because the wheel's spinning out the truck doesn't have a load. It's going to spin the fabric out. You pour the gravel and have the truck back out over it, or you dump it on the edge and you have a dozer or a bobcat or whatever, push it in on the fabric. Okay? It says put in number 4 crushed stone, which is the larger size stone, and then top dress it with 3 inches of dense grade. Again, if you don't have a proper bulldozer operator or equipment operator, he might not have enough, overburden on that rock, on those large spores, basically to cover them up, which means they're going to work their way up to the top. And cattle don't like to walk on those. In certain situations, actually in most, I'll do the whole pad in dense grade aggregate. Okay? But here's also the thing that varies quite a bit too. Rock quarries. Rock quarries have different products and so on and so forth. What I like to get is a product that's got lots of dust in it. Lots of, large size gravel, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch gravel, but a lot of dust. If you don't have the dust and you don't get it wet or order it wet and compact it, it's going to walk away. It's not going to last. They're going to actually sink in it. You got to get it wet. You got to compact it. We get a roller on ours. And how much do you roll it? When I see that roller going across those pads, and that needle is bouncing like that, then it's hard. And that's what I want. Okay? So, there's that. Here's us putting in a pad right here. See? Straight down. When I go straight down, you lay the fabric in the bottom, just like this. If you're overlapping it because you put it in a large, area, normally the sheets, they come in 12 and 15 foot widths. So let's say you're putting in a 25 foot wide pad. It needs to overlap by a minimum 2 feet. Okay? I use grass pins to set it down. If we're doing a 15-foot section and that's the edge, I pin it over there every couple of paces, and then I pin it in the middle. And then I don't pin this side over here, then I'll lay down another sheet, overlap it 2 feet, and then I'll put the pins down. Okay? So it's just a minimum of pins. It's just being efficient. But there it is. And then that's how they're putting the rock on the edge, and then they'll push the rock out over the back. I don't want to see this. See this? I don't want to see that. That fabric's not supposed to be showing. That fabric is also, it's photosensitive, so actually degrade in sunlight. And then the other thing is, it's supposed to be down in the bottom of the pit. If it's up on the top like this now, by the time another year or so goes by, it's going to be flattened back. No. And I don't like to see all this extra gravel going out on my grass. That's my grass. It's supposed to be in this pit right here. Does that make sense? I'm kind of thinking. Alright, so there's that. Then, just to kick some hands, I put these calculations up there. Alright, so one is the spoils. When you excavate out a hole, basically whatever that volume is, because it's soil, it's going to expand by 1.5 times. So you got to know where to put this stuff when you take out that hole. And it's topsoil. It's good stuff. I've had some producers take it down to the edge of, the road frontage that they've got and pile it up and put a for sale sign in it, and they sold their topsoil to urbanites, which paid for the heavy traffic area that they put in. They paid for all the rock and the fabric that they put in. That's entrepreneuring. That's farmers. Okay? The other thing is calculating knowledge. Okay? So what I do is I calculate the width and the length in foot and basically in the depth. So whatever the 8 inches is over 12, basically that fraction or whatever that depth is, I multiply it out, I get everything up in cubic feet. And I divide it by 27 to get it in cubic yards. And then I multiply cubic yards times at least 1.5, maybe 1.6, depending, and that converts cubic yards into tonnage. Because I want to know how much tonnage I need. So I'll do the calculations, and let's say it comes out to be 45 tons. Well, then I can call the dispatcher and say, hey, I need 3 traction loads. The traction loads probably going to be anywhere between 22 to 24 tons. And so I'll say, hey, send me 2 trucks. I don't even tell her I want 45 tons. They don't understand that. Just send me 2 trucks. And then that extra tonnage, I can use it someplace else on the farm, guaranteed. So I'll just use it there, and I'll stockpile it, there you go. And then after I get it in, and now I'm not even telling them to order it wet. Because I've done the calculations on it, you're paying like, what, 2 cents a gallon if you order it wet. But you want it wet so you can compact it. If you order it dry and you've got the ability to wet it down, fine. But get it wet and compact it. These other practices they got highlighted: rotational grazing, proper stocking density, repairing area protection, stream crossings, and alternative water sources. Got another video. Alright, I can do this.
What we try to do with the large pastures, dividing paddocks of 10 to 15 acres, with water within 800 feet of the cattle. That's not always possible because of the irregular size of the pastures or where your shade and different things are. We feel like it really helps the cattle to have the water source. And we also like the automatic water, gets the cattle out of ponds, it helps prevent diseases and other foot problems due to stinking water and things like that. The cattle really respond well when you move in from one pasture to another. It gives the cattle more tame and easier to work with because they always want to go on the green grass. They like to follow you around. It also allows more regrowth of the pastures and better stand in the long run.
Well, he showed that water, and there's like a minimum of 6 inches around it to sell that depression, that hole. I like to put in bigger concrete pads than that. I like to get the whole animal on that concrete. And I don't like the animals to step onto the concrete, I want to flush with the ground. Again, when they're stepping off of it, all that weight shifts to one foot. No matter how big a concrete pad you pour, you're always going to have a ditch, a divot as soon as they step. So I like to have it nice and flat. I like to groove them too, except for where the water sits. That needs to be smoother than anything, so you get a good adherence of that water tank. Here's another one.
Cannot tell me that a cow sitting in a pool of water, defecating, urinating, and then turning right around on the downstream side and then drinking it back in is good for them. And when you get 20 or 30 cows in one little pool, it really gets pretty nasty. It might hurt help. As soon as I pulled them out of the creek, started fencing off the stream, keep my cows out of the stream. My herd help was just unbelievable.
Okay, there's that. I like to, when I put in waters too, I like to get a one water to sort of multiple pastures. That one guy, I think he probably got 3 pastures off that. We're getting ready to do some demonstrations, but we're probably going to put in one water that might serve 7 pastures. 7. And then we're just going to use waterways or water alleys to basically get the animals to it. And that way, if you can do that, put in a larger concrete pad, makes a whole lot more sense because you can amortize it off of a bunch of areas. This thing on the water quality, I got some producers that swear up and down the cattle do not like to drink chlorinated water. They'd rather drink that slop that they urinate and defecate in. And I've had them tell me that at field days in front of all y'all. And then I actually looked some of that stuff up, and but actually, we're talking about an animal that if you're given the choice, it'll eat its own afterbirth. Okay, so it's up to you to make sure that it's getting good, clean water. Because if it does, it's going to eat more. If it eats more, it's going to produce more. And then I got this stuff on the screen, so I'm going to have time to go through all this stuff. But if you have an animal that has free access to a stream, here's the advantages and here's the disadvantages. So there's more disadvantages than advantages. Okay. And so then you can get them on a pond like this, okay, which I went and visited some today, that we wanted to fence off and stuff. Again, here's the advantages, but a whole lot of disadvantages. This one, I'm chopping holes in the ice and losing animals where they fall in. That happens every once in a while. There's a whole bunch of them, all right? And then so fencing it off and putting it in a gravity-fed structure, which is what we recommended to the producer today. He said, yeah, I've done it on other farms, but I'm renting this round, I need some other solution for this. This is the way to go. And, you know, I think. And the thing is because what you want is you want to have clean water going out of the pond, from that watershed. Because right now, or recently, we've had this thing going around, it's been in the news some, it's called HAB. It's an acronym. Harmful Algae Bloom. Okay? So, a year or so ago, basically, the vet's office, the diagnostic lab, they got a pond, there's a pond that had these things called HABs in there, and they found a bunch of cattle. Some of them were in the pond, some of them were laying around the pond, but they were what they called acutely dead. I had to look that up. Acutely dead. Acutely dead. Really? Real dead. I mean, real dead. And that's, you know, I was like, really? But anyway, and see, the thing is, when we bring up HABs, Toledo, Ohio, last year, shut off their water supply for 400,000 people for 2 days because of HABs. You want to scare somebody? Turn the water off the tap. Okay? But there's that. There's pond exclusion. Now you've got more advantages than limitations. Okay? And then here's limited access, which we talked to this producer today. And it's got a lot of advantages and a few limitations, but I can't stand limited access. I really don't. I don't like it. Because I just show you, this is down from my house. This guy's got the square field and he's running stockers. And I put this little jig in here to show you what this is. Okay, here it is. Alright, there's the water gap. So all of them are just chucked in there. Okay? So limited access might help out because you're not tearing up the whole thing. But those animals are going to loaf in there from 10 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon during the hot time of the year. And you can't tell me that's good for water quality and for the herd health. So there's that. So I don't like it. There's your HABs. It looks like fluorescent green paint is dumped on the pond. That's what it looks like in the lab. Has anybody seen it? No? No? Okay. But it's wicked. I mean, we're talking harmful to production. And so basically, it looks like bright green paint, and to you, like if you swim in this, because you're hopefully not drinking it when you're swimming, okay, you might get nausea, vomiting, and this tingling and difficulty breathing, but in cattle, it's death. Okay? So another good reason to finish it off. And there's that phenomenon about the pond animals in the pond. Okay? But you give an animal clean water, and basically some of these research studies have shown you're looking at over a 20% increase in production. So, clean water, provided at all times. Alright? And then there's like 11 different waterborne diseases associated with letting animals have free access to water. And when we let animals have access to water on our property, but once we started sampling the water that was coming on our farm, it was so polluted coming off the city and stuff, we were like, we got to get rid of it. So, here's the deal on that. Oh, here's the waters. Alright, I got time for this. Y'all ever seen anything like this? Where you get these depressions? You see that? Yeah, it's something like this. Here's my favorite. This guy right here, this is on a PhD's farm. And he comes and tells me, he says, Steve, he says, I fill in this ditch, or this hole, every year, and every year it comes back. This is what I'm talking about the deferred cost. So I actually measured this stuff, and I figured out, if you put in a 9-foot, or actually, you got 9 foot on each end, or an 18 by 18 pad, you're done. That's kind of expensive. But again, if you can put in a water point that serves multiple pastures, then you're spreading that cost out over a lot of areas. Because here's your load. If you got a field that has no shade in it, they're just going to stand there and they're low, and they're not even drinking. They're just hanging out and bearing things up. So this is an 18 by 18 octagonal pad that we put in, and I'm just going to keep an eye on it and see how it goes. So, how was that? Okay. And then you got the handout. This is a lot of the stuff that I covered. And, I hope this was good for y'all and informative. And I hope you'll take this water quality thing serious because it's going to get interesting. Okay? Any questions? Comments? All right.
Good deal. Thank you. We will, I guess, take your circulate. So first, you're going to get dinner out. Before we do, go ahead and do that. Mark, you can listen to for us.
God, thank you for this day that you give us. Pray you bless us food and nourish our body.
Amen.
And thank you to the McLean County Talent Association too for last dinner for us tonight.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, my name's Cody Robertson, president of McLean County Talent. This is Nathan, vice president. Anyway, we actually had the national second division of the one club 2 weeks ago. Anyway, we're got the presidential award for increase our membership to over 20 members. So kind of got some good things going with the academies here in McLean County. So if anybody here is interested in joining the academy, it's $30 a person, $15 more annual wise. We get like cattle country news, which keeps you informed on cattle business industry stuff. That comes to your house, and then also, you know, kind of get some ideas of cabinets to help with promoting the beef as far as the business end of it, promoting beef, sales and stuff. And also, we just in the community here, we do a lot of cooking ribeyes up in the Ag Day, and also the Ag Fest, we cook at. It's a park in the summer, so we have cooking, but Ag Day to cook for the kids and stuff, and school educational things that happen. But we just appreciate you all here and interested in talking about the Cabinet Association and kind of give me and make my thank y'all for being here.
Yeah, that's the thing, I just said that. Yeah, it doesn't have to go on the surface. Actually, we have a lot, we can go through that. And actually, you're not coming to the property. It can go, it's a I like it. I don't know about the doctor.
And let me tell you, up on that hill, you know, yeah.
You ready to do videos?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna see where
There was only one time I think that I lost Steve, and he was over here like in front of the flip chart, and it was during the video. That's it.
gotta find center there.
Oh yeah, you're fine. I understand the video. Let me think about that.
It started pretty quick. Because I think they're serious about getting out of here.
Did you eat?
No, I haven't yet, but I'm fast eater, so I'll let them go first. I'll just grab something and then they can finish up.